The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. It's either good morning or good afternoon. This is David Ruiz talking. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. People are continuing to trickle in. I was looking for the chat interface in GoToMeeting, but I couldn't find it, so I'm having to talk to you here a little bit. But anyway, just give us a couple more minutes, and then we'll get started with a short presentation and demonstration of Raven Office. And for as many people that are here, we'll have an interactive conversation about and take any questions that you may have. So just bear with us for a second, and we'll get started. Marcia, are you still there?
I am here, yes.
Okay.
Once you get started, I'm going to put myself on mute until...
Yeah, so we don't have to listen to you clicking and clacking. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm done clicking.
Yeah. Jump in attendance there, so people trickling in.
Yep. Yeah, this whole panel is strange looking.
Yeah, they've just kind of limited some of the features. Seems like.
Yeah, because I can't even see the audience.
Oh, really? You can't see the attendee list?
Oh, there it is. It's moved. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Well, no, I only see staff. That's all I see.
Okay.
I don't see the names of people.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, welcome to everyone. We've got a few more people that have come in, so we'll want to get started so we don't delay any further. Again, my name is David Ruiz. I'm Vice President of Products for Ravenflow. And with me today is Marcia Stinson, the Technical Account Manager that many of you know. And what we're here to do today is to give you an overview of the new Raven for Microsoft Office software, and primarily focus on demonstrating its features and capabilities for you, and answer any questions you might have about the roadmap relative to Raven overall, Raven for Microsoft Office, and its ability to fulfill the capabilities that you've come to know and expect in the Raven Professional software that some of you may be using. We just want to basically use today as an interactive discussion so that we can answer those questions. We have everybody on mute at the current time, and in your interface, if you do have any questions for me, feel free just to raise your hand, and I can get those answered straight away. So assuming that everybody can see my screen overall, let me just continue into the presentation. All right, so some of you have attended, sneak previews of Office back in February. I did this for the Raven Navigators, the people who are on our Product Advisory Council. I see Anthony Lombardi online, so he's one of those folks. What we want to talk about here on slide 2 is just an overview of the new product line for 2011, right? And so Davin Cushman, who's the new CEO of Ravenflow, conveyed some of this information to you during the welcome, the greeting that he gave a month or so ago during just after the acquisition. And it really talked about the strategy really being focused here on Raven for Office, which is a collection of add-in products for the key products that you use as business analysts to do business and requirements analysis work, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. A separate product called Raven for Visio that will come a bit later, but it's really focused on taking Raven capabilities directly within the Visio environment. Raven Cloud, which was launched back in December, but to really give you a sense of where the new generation product was going in terms of rich interactive user experience, in terms of higher fidelity process and use case diagrams, etc. That was made available last year. The glossary that basically takes the Raven glossary capabilities that you've seen in Raven 5.2 and really makes them much more enterprise class, really a separate service, a separate application that you can use with Raven or frankly with other applications as well. Really to use this to describe the key actors and the objects that you reference in your requirements documentation, and of course that you reference when you author a process or use case narrative to be analyzed and visualized by Raven. A process repository where you can take these process and use cases models and store them away, index and classify them, and then retrieve them for later use. And one of the key parts of the strategy going forward is to make Raven as a service, the language engine, and provide an API that you can use or our partners can use to do custom integrations with Raven-enabled applications, right? And we can talk about some of the scenarios we use for that. So that's really a quick look at the product line overall, and we'll just kind of continue going into some of the details here. Slide 3 gives you a sense of the overall architecture. Starting from the bottom, you see in the middle there Raven for Office and Visio. And again, what we're saying is that, you know, after a lot of work together and of course working in this market for many years, we've come to accept the fact, the reality really, that, you know, Office is the go-to tool set for most business analysts to do their job, right? And whether it's using Word and Excel for structured requirements collection, or whether it's using Visio or PowerPoint for doing flowcharts and process diagrams, you know, 90% plus of all of you and all business analysts, certainly in the U.S., if not worldwide, are using Office tools to help do the job that they're assigned to do. And so this strategy really recognizes that, embraces it, and looks to empower business analysts directly within the Office environment with these unique Raven capabilities. Surrounding Raven Office is Raven Cloud. So think of it as a web-based access point for Raven process and use case models. And that's available today, as you know, that people can go out and purchase with a credit card. But in this new strategy, it'll be something that's included when you buy into the Office products. So when you get an Office, Raven for Office, it'll come with the ability to set up a Raven Cloud account for yourself or for many other users in your company that you're deploying this to. And so that what it means is that a use case that you author within a Word document and you save into a repository can be accessed either from an Office, you know, application or from the Raven Cloud browser-based application. It's one and the same, right? So this gives you a great deal of flexibility to share these process and use case models and access them from any point in the enterprise and beyond. And so that's kind of how that's going to work going forward. And then on the right-hand side, you see the API, and this is really meant just to depict that, you know, a lot of you have got integrations that you may like to do with other systems, whether that's a requirements management system or perhaps another glossary application that you'd like to tie into the Raven capabilities and use a single glossary system of record and then have Raven reference that or borrow terminology from that. Then in the cloud up above, right, what we're saying here is that this strategy is all cloud-based. and all enterprise focused. So meaning when you're running any of these applications, Raven for Office or cloud, whatever, everything is executing in the cloud, right? So that the language engine is running in the cloud, the glossary is stored in the cloud, repository, etc. So it's a pure cloud-based architecture, no different than what you get when you're running Google Docs or Google Gmail, or whether you're using Salesforce.com or whatever, right? So that's the architecture that is focused on now, which gives you a great deal of flexibility and gives you the ability to dynamically update these services in the cloud without having to worry so much about deployment and updating of individual computers throughout the enterprise. And we can talk a little bit about that as we go forward. But this is just a high-level view of the fundamental architecture of the Raven 2011 set of products, centered around Office, cloud-based services, designed really to maximize accessibility and your ability to deploy Raven to a number of different constituents in your company, where before they would have all had to be Raven professional users or occasional Raven Express user. It really takes that model and replaces it with this. So, so I just want to make sure that's clear to you going forward. All right, so talk a little bit more about the Raven for Office products overall. Word, Excel, PowerPoint are the big three. Again, right now the first wave of this is Raven for Office. And of course, I think you guys understand that Word, Excel, and PowerPoint are actual Office products or Office applications, where Visio is actually a separate application. It's not part of the Office suite. You need to purchase and license it separately. So that's why we broke that out. And that'll be made available as a second set of releases later this year. But so the add-ins for Office include Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And fundamentally what the Word add-in does is replace Raven Express, right? So for those of you that have been pure Raven Express users, then the Word add-in would be your upgrade path for future Raven capabilities. We've designed this, as Marshall will show you shortly, to blend seamlessly within the Office 2010 user experience. Now, I want to be clear that this is an add-in designed for use only with Microsoft Office 2010. It will not work with Office 2003 or 2007, right? That was a decision that we elected to make because of the differences in the underlying object models of 2010 versus earlier versions, the XML file form, all that stuff, right? There's a lot of things that factored into this, but we believe that Office 2010 is a significant step up for all Office users in the enterprise, and really wanted to optimize what we did with Raven to take advantage of those capabilities in Office 2010. As I said before, the Office product really can leverage the business glossary, so this is something that it comes along with it, and it allows you to leverage a predefined terminology for the processes and use cases that you're analyzing, and allowing you to communicate with consistency and clarity for the entire project team, and which we think is fundamentally important. It allows you to generate not only the higher fidelity diagrams that you've seen in Raven Cloud, but the same kind of things from Office, and do it in image format, in Office graphics format, or in Visio format, even if you don't have Visio installed on your machines, right? So if you have a colleague that uses Visio but you don't yourself, you could author a use case in Raven for Word or Excel, for example, generate a diagram, and then basically send it off to them via email in Visio format, right? So this gives you, again, an ability to be a process contributor where the processes are stored in Visio format, and you don't have to have Visio yourself. Now, a lot of you might have it already, but I know some of you don't and or are not comfortable using Visio to its maximum effect, so it's really up to you. Of course, Microsoft wants us to, make sure Visio is part of every discussion we have, but it's kind of the hard truth is a lot of people struggle to generate a clean, logically correct process diagram in Visio, and we think the Office Suite, the Raven for Office product line, really helps address that. And as I said before, the last bullet here, a bridge to Raven Cloud. What that really means is, again, I could author a process or a use case in Microsoft Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. I can elect to save it away, meaning decouple it almost, and allow you to store it independent of the document that it was authored in, and save it away. And then I could go over to my home workstation, my personal desktop at home. I could log into my Raven Cloud account and see that exact same use case from the Raven Cloud interface, right? So you basically could have some of your users using Office to do this work, and others, which might only need to reference this on an occasional basis, could be Raven Cloud users accessing the same processes or use case models that you created from the Office product. So it's really a closed loop type of system, common storage, common repository, common use of glossary, etc., which gives you an ability to leverage these as assets, right? Leverageable artifacts across the company, right? So let me just stop there. Does anybody have any questions? If you do have questions before I turn it over to Marcia, if you could please raise your hand in the webinar interface, and I'll unmute you one at a time. Cashel, can you hear me? Hello, Cashel Walker. Yes? No? Okay. She did have a question, but I don't seem to be able to hear her for whatever reason. So, Michelle, if you do have a question, you can either raise it later once we figure out the audio issue, but I'll go ahead and put you back on mute for now. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, Marcia, if you're available and ready, I'll make you the presenter. And
I am available and ready.
well, I hope so, because I don't want to have to do the demo, right? So. Okay, go ahead, Marcia. Your stage is yours.
All righty. And so you guys can see the St. Louis Arch, I presume. All right, so I just want to say thanks for attending this webinar. It's great to have you guys here. I think probably most of you I've spoken to or met with individually and talked about some of the Raven Professional issues or problems or how you're using the tool. So just a couple things I want to say before we start the demo. When I've talked to most of the customers, the two biggest issues that we've heard over and over and over with Raven is the fidelity of the diagrams. That's always a big issue. So for those of you that have seen Raven Cloud, you know where we're headed with our diagram. And then the other issue is the specification builder, getting all that information out into a Word document, which was pretty limited in what you could do with it. So, as we've gone through this thought process and talked to customers and looked at polls and, realized that probably, I would say almost 100% of our customers are using RavenFlow to produce a Word document that they can then use. And based on that, we said, well, let's focus on getting this embedded in Word. And I just want to say that kudos to Dave. I think he's done a great job with this user interface, and I think you're really going to like it. And I think you're also going to find that the functionality that you're most interested in RavenFlow is in this product. So let me just walk through it at a fairly high level. I'm not going to delve into every detail of everything you can do, but I want to give you a feel for how you can use it. So what I've done is just opened up a Word document. This is should be very familiar to everybody since all of you are using Word for something. And you'll notice up here at the right there's a Raven menu option. and this is where we're going to do all the Raven functions. Other than that, I'm working inside of a Word document. I can have my own templates, my own outline, my own structure, whatever I want it to be. And that's what most of you typically start with anyway, is a Word template. So you could have your template already set up, add your information in, and then we're going to add some Raven information in here, of course. So we'll select the Raven menu option here at the top. Right off the bat, I'll mention that you have the glossary capability inside of here. That's something people really liked within Raven Professional, and we wanted to make sure you continue to have that capability. So I can select my glossary here from my list, and I can also manage my glossary. Very similar to what you did in Raven Professional, but it's a much nicer interface. And you'll see there's some other options inside of here that you can also take advantage of. But it's basically here where I define my actors and objects just like I did before to add to my glossary. So here are my actors and objects that I've defined inside of here. You notice now we have a new field called the term type. We've got a status. The descriptions can be much longer. Some of you might have run into that problem. But basically, just like I did before, this is where I'm going to manage my glossary information, the actors and objects that I'm going to use over and over. So the functionality itself, very similar to Raven Professional, but the user interface is much nicer. So once I define my glossary, I've picked my glossary, added some terms into it. There's a couple of ways I can add information into the document. One is to type my narrative right inside of the Word document, just like you would do in Word, and then highlight that and model it. But the other thing that I think is very cool is the ability to add the process pane, the Raven process pane here on the left. This is where I found I like to do my typing. It just kind of keeps it over here, and I can work on it over here until I'm ready to insert it into my document. And I'm just going to start with a very simple process. For those of you that have worked with me a while, you've probably seen this loan demo that I do. I've done about, I don't know, several hundred times. So let's start typing that loan demo. So here's this should look very familiar to you, the loan applicant. And here's where I can pick my glossary term. So my terms from my glossary show up just like they did before. And I can pick that term. And here's one that is not in here, so I just continue typing. And then I might say that the bank website sends a start request to the loan application system, another one that's not in here. And then I can say the loan application system. This should look very familiar to most of you guys probably. Processes loan request.
I want a new demo.
Okay, so here's my simple little process flow. And now what can I do with this? Well, one of the things that's new is something called Analyze Narrative. And I can select this, and I'm going to get a whole bunch of information out of this. One of the things I would get is errors and warnings. So for those of you that know Raven Professional, view, specification, oh my gosh, I totally lost it.
Checker.
Specification checker, yeah. Brings up these errors and warnings. Well, here it is right here in this little icon, and here's an example. I've got a missing object, I've got a non-glossary actor, I've got some flow breaks. And just like in Raven Professional, I can select it, and it highlights the text associated with that error. The other kinds of information that I get that I think is really cool, here's my list of terms, here's my functions, here's the steps in the process, here are my scenarios. Some of you are really interested in test paths and test scenarios. Well, here they are right here. And I have two because I have a flow break in there. I don't know what I did, but we'll figure that out. And then here's my list of sentences. So a lot of analysis done very quickly on the use case that I can pull up And I'll show you in a moment how I can actually insert those into my document. So now I can take this and preview the diagram.
Here's an error in the first
And here's
sentence.
my diagram. And you might notice that this is the new and improved diagram format. So once I get my diagram up, I can do just like I did before. I can rotate it if I want to see it the other way. I can fit it to window. All the things that I could do in Raven Cloud are here available. I can also copy it to a clipboard, and I can export to several formats right inside this preview. I'm going to close this. So I would probably want to go in and fix this, of course, and correct my problems. I'm not sure why I'm getting that.
Select Salone request link, the bank websites, first sentence.
Ah! Thank you, Dave. Let's see if that one looks better. There we go. And then I can do this. So let me put my cursor right inside this narrative section. And now I can insert my narrative in here. And here's where I want to put my activity diagram. So I can insert my process diagram here. And now I have this nice, neat section inside of my document with this information. And the other thing I can do is, in addition to this, some of you like to put in, you know, the individual functions in that use case. Maybe you want to put in your test paths or your scenarios through this particular narrative. And I can simply say insert table, insert scenarios, and here's the scenarios through this particular narrative. So this is just an example of the kind of fidelity you can get with the diagrams, which I think is fantastic. And I can put them in either horizontal or vertical, depending on my preferences, and get this nice, complete document out of this without a lot of gyration, like some of you I know experienced and had to do with the Spec Builder. So let's add one more process inside of here. I can simply go up here and say Add New Process, and I'm going to take one that's a little not quite so nice, so you can see that one. So we'll just copy this, paste it in here. We'll analyze this narrative. And we can preview the diagram. We'll just see what it looks like. So you can see I've got some errors inside of this particular diagram. And again, I can go bring those up, you know, go through these. Here's non-glossary, here's a flow break, here's an incomplete conditional. And I could go in and correct those. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and actually put this inside of here. Because what I want you to see really are the test scenarios when there's more than one path, so you can see what that looks like. So let's insert this diagram in here. Even though we know it's not correct, we'll go ahead and insert it. And there it is. There's the big monster. And then if I want to put in my test scenarios again, I can do that very simply and quickly. And here's a table of all the different paths through this particular narrative. If I want to go up to the top and put my terms in here, that's easy to do too. So maybe I would have something in here. My glossary, this is how easy it is to put the glossary where I want to put it. Here it comes in. Nice table format, very neat. Tells me what glossary it's in. So all this information is available to put where I want into my document. I think it results in a very neat, much more complete document. The other thing you might notice here down here is this previous and next. This is pretty cool, so I can scroll through my narratives in my document. So if I have 20 narratives in this document, I can just keep hitting next and I'll continue to scroll through those. I can also save my processes. I can give it a name, a description, a state. There's some other information that I can attach to my narrative that will help me kind of categorize those, if you will. And I would enter them here, and then I'll show you how to save these in just a moment. Maybe we should stop today to see if there's any questions so far.
Yeah, again, if you want to raise your hand, I could unmute you. Or if this is all really clear to everybody, then we can just kind of continue.
Yep, we'll just keep going if nobody's got any questions. So, so I continue to build my document over here, which is great. The other thing that I can do is, and this is the thing that I like, is setting some options. So if you like a particular diagram orientation, you can set it here. If you always want the highlighting on your text, you can turn it on or off here. You want a default glossary. So some options you can set here are very nice. Here's my export of the images like we had before. And the cool thing is I can save these processes to a location, and eventually this is going to be a standard location where these processes are saved. I give it a name, some information. This is tied to cloud, so when you look at this, you will see categories that I have created in my Raven Cloud account that show up here as a place where I can store those. So I can begin to build a repository of these particular narratives that I can then use again. I can then open these processes up and pull them right into my document. So working more and more towards a shared repository where you can have a standard set of narratives that you continue to just pull into your document. Everybody can access those, so you're not going to have to recreate them every time. You don't have to copy text, paste it in, and remodel. It all comes in when you select that process to bring in. So I think, you know, the point that we wanted to make today, or at least that I wanted to make to all of you today, is that I think 90% of the functionality that's in Raven Professional is in Raven for Office. And to be perfectly honest, the only thing that I can see that you're losing here is the ability to review and provide comments online through the collaboration server, which some of you use today. I'm probably most of you don't use it that way. You use it to share information, but not for commenting and feedback. So everything else is here. The test paths, the export to Excel is here. All of the things that you used to have to go to the collaboration space to do are now part of this Raven client. And I think the diagrams and the ability to create that really, really nice Word document out of this is a huge, huge factor. And again, kudos to Dave and his team for the work they did on this. And the last thing I'll mention too, the other thing, you know, now that I'm working in Word, I can turn my change tracking on and track those changes as I go through to make updates to my document. So another nice thing that people have struggled with, I know, creating two separate spec documents and not really being able to identify what changed. Now you can leverage the Office Word capabilities to do some of that. I think that's basically what I wanted to show. Dave will probably want to add some comments to this based on what he knows about how the product works. But anything else, Dave, you want to add?
No, I mean, I think that, of course, the other point is, and I'll go ahead and take back the presentation control. Right. So, you know, again, whether it's Word is your go-to tool for, you know, doing requirements or process discovery work, or it's Excel, right? So, you know, here's my Excel screen, and you can see the same Raven ribbon is there with a process pane, right, that you can turn on or turn off, and you could, you know, author right here. Right in line is a series of, you know, rows that are analyzed by Raven. So if you use Excel to do writing use cases, for example, then you could do this here. You could, you know, insert the diagram in either image format or an Office graphics format right in this sheet, right? So I can put it right here. I can grab it. I can move it, right? And I can even adjust it and edit it, right? Because now it's an intelligent vector format, right? So I just want to make it clear to you that, you know, you have these options now to to use Excel, to use Word, to use PowerPoint, right, to do these things. And so depending on what your preference is or what other Office application you're more comfortable with, again, Visio will be a secondary release later in the summer, but you can see that we have complete consistency across these things. You have these same functions, you have the same ability to check out the analysis results, etc., right? So it's all common across all these things, so which I think is really, really nice. And as I said before, you have options to take this and export it to Visio if you want to. I don't know why I would save out this little diagram, but you get the idea, right? So anyway, that's I think an important point is, Word, Excel, PowerPoint for now, leveraging a common glossary, right, that you can open up in a separate window, as Marcia showed you. I think she showed you with the ribbon for the glossary collapse, so you couldn't see the icons that are here. But, and you have an ability to drill into these terms, right, and basically edit them in line, right, etc. So a very rich glossary interface that complements your use of any of these Office products and allows you to leverage this vocabulary across the company, really, because you could import terms from some other source, you could export terms, and via the API that I discussed earlier, that might be a common scenario. Or I think somebody at one of our customers is using the IBM InfoSphere product for a business glossary, and they'd like to be able to synchronize the terms there with the terms here that you're using in Office, and that's how you would do it, is through the API, right? So Excel, of course, is the universal glue between a lot of different sources of data, but if you need something more automated, then that's where you would use the glossary to do that, or excuse me, the API to do that. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. In terms of the product packaging, Davin Cushman, for those of you who attended his briefing, described these different solution bundles for Raven 2011 products, an all-cloud type strategy, an Office-focused strategy, and an all-in strategy where the API is included as part of it. Those are how this kind of comes together. Now, while you're on the phone here today or attending the webinar, we did want to make it clear to you that we're starting tomorrow going to be offering up the software for limited beta use over the next 30 days. And it's limited to 30 days because we intend to ship it in about 30 days' time, right? So, but we do want to give you an early access to it to make sure that we're not missing some final things. But, and again, some of the capabilities are not completely finalized, but I think you'll get a sense, and hopefully you already got a sense from Marcia's demonstration, that it's pretty solid, and it looks and looks good, and I think it's going to deliver the kind of value that you're looking for. It's available to any of you on this webinar or any other Raven user in your company, whether it's using Raven Professional or Express or anything. Of course, it's free, and well, the only thing we'd like you to do, if you could, if you want to access this, we do want your feedback, right? And in terms of, yeah, I like it, no, I hate it, I found some defects you should know about, or I'd like to enhance it in these ways. And maybe not every week, but it'd be nice if we could just agree to a 10 or 15-minute call once a week to touch base for those of you who participate, so that, you really help us in terms of providing some structured feedback that we can act upon. Right, so, obviously those of you who know mine or Marcia's email could email us directly to express interest in the beta, or you can send a request to success@ravenflow.com, and we get copied on it directly from there anyway. So I do want to encourage you to raise your hand and participate in the beta program, because I think you'll find it very interesting and rewarding to play with the software in its early form. And and of course, we again would love to get your feedback. So just send us an email, and we'll be happy to make that available as quickly as been. And we're talking about making it available to you starting tomorrow. So as soon as you're ready, we can have the software available to you. It does require Office 2010, so for those of you who don't have Office 2010 or have no access to a computer that has Office 2010, then that makes it pretty hard to participate. But that is a requirement, and there's really no getting around that. Okay, so in terms of the final thoughts here, we do have these Welcome to the Family offers that were teed up by Davin in his briefing to you a few weeks ago. And what it basically says is that you have an opportunity to take all your current users over to Office, to double your current users, and you can see the multipliers there. But we don't want to spend a lot of time going through this other than to say these will be reaching out to you independently and individually about your current situation, the current software you have under license and under maintenance, and then have a discussion about whether you see value in the Raven for Office product line or the Office-centric product line, and whether you want to take us up on any of these offers, which provide pretty significant value in terms of doubling or quadrupling your user base for basically a fractional uplift on your maintenance costs for last year. So, but again, all that's individual to you, and so we don't want to kind of take too many questions about that part of it, but I do wanted to reiterate that these offers are available through the end of the quarter, June 30, and you should start to see some communication from the Versata organization in terms of customer support program options. Marcia, I think they expect to be sending those out early next week, last I heard. So, so anyway, that is the presentation today. I'm going to start unmuting people and beg them to ask questions. Does anybody on the call have any questions? I'd be happy to take them at this time. You're all pretty much unmuted. Or should we have no questions? Everybody is in awe. Yeah, you're that good. Okay. If there's no questions, obviously we're not going to twist your arm to ask a question. But for those of you interested, was that a question?
I'm not sure who it is. Some training going on. PSI, maybe.
Okay, so I guess there's no question. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and close down the webinar then. We very much appreciate your attending today. Feel free to reach out to myself or Marcia directly if you have questions, or send an email to success@ravenflow.com to request to participate in the beta. We may be reaching out to you proactively to do that and to make sure we get some good, solid participation. But other than that, thanks for your attendance today, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.